Welcome to ICI Podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the throne room in Revelation 4. Revelation 4 gives a snapshot kind of what the throne room area looks like, and also some of the beings that are in the throne room. The chapter is very short, so I will dive right in with that. Those who join me live, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section. And so let's start with verse 1. And this is John speaking. And he says, I see an open door in heaven and the voice like a trumpet, which I had heard before. And he's referring to Revelations chapter 2, where he heard this voice, and it was the Son of Man, or the Son of God. And he said to me, "Come up here, and I will show you things that are to come in the future." And he says immediately he was back in the spirit, an open vision type of thing, and he saw a throne, and there was someone sitting on the throne. Interestingly, throughout the chapter, he never specifically names who's sitting on the throne, but it is God the Father. Verse 3 says, "And the one who sat on the throne was like a crystalline sparkle of a sard stone, of a jasper stone, and the fiery redness of a red carnelian or a sard stone." So, depending on the versions you read, it says a sard stone. Also today are red carnelian. I wanted to show you some pictures of this, but the particular streaming software that I use doesn't allow it. So, but in this case, it was a crystalline type of jasper that he's talking about here. Interestingly enough, also these two stones are also found in the breastplate of the high priest. The carnelian actually signifying the tribe of Reuben, which was the oldest of Jacob's sons, and jasper signifying the tribe of Benjamin, being the youngest of Jacob's sons. There may be some symbolism in there. Jesus talks about himself in the first chapter as being the first and the last, the Omega, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. Some probable symbolism here. Also, there was a rainbow that encircled the throne that shone green like an emerald. So it was a full circle around the throne. And also, an emerald is also on the high priest's breastplate, and it was the stone of Judah. So there were 24 other thrones that surrounded the central throne, and seated on those thrones were 24 elders. They were dressed in glistening white garments of righteousness with golden crowns on their heads. There's various interpretations of who these 24 elders might be. There's no real consensus. I mean, like I said, there's various, you can find many different explanations of who the elders are. None of them really, I don't know. Honestly, who I think one of the elders is, and this is just my own opinion, but that Melchizedek that's talked about in Hebrews, King Melchizedek, could possibly be one of these elders. Again, that's just me. But again, no real consensus on who these elders are. Verse 5 says, "And out of the throne was coming lightnings and thunderings and rumblings." And also in Exodus 19, it talks about this lightning and thunder, and it's also in connection with God being in the area. And this verse, and it says, it talks about when God meets Moses on Mount Sinai, and he came with lightning and thunder. So it just appears that when God is present, there's all sorts of things going on in the atmosphere, including lightning and thunder. And there were also 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne. It always appears that these lamps are always burning, and it's the 7 spirits of God, the sevenfold spirit. These spirits are, I'm pretty sure it's the same that are talked about in Isaiah 11:2, these 7 spirits, which are wisdom, knowledge, see if I can remember them, understanding, sound counsel, might, the fear of God, and the Spirit of God. So 7-fold spirits, which is always, again, burning before the throne of God. Verse 6 says, "Before the throne, there was an expansive sea of glass, like sparkling crystal. It would most likely have reflected everything that was going on. So the lightning would have been reflecting off of it. The emerald ring around the throne would be reflecting off of it. I'm sure it doesn't just reflect off, it probably reflected what was ever coming through it, and I suspect also from beneath it. So it was, I'm sure it is a quite incredible light show that's always going on off of this sea of glass that's before the throne. In the center and around the throne, there were 4 beasts covered with eyes, front and back, signifying that they see and they know everything around them. The first creature was like a lion. The second was like a young calf or ox. The third creature had the face of a man, and the fourth creature was like a flying eagle. These also, Ezekiel talks about creatures that had these faces, and in Ezekiel, they were called cherubim. And then verse 8 continues on and says, these 4 living creatures all had 6 wings that covered their eyes on the inside, and which were covered with eyes on the inside and the outside of their wings. So their entire beings were covered in eyes. And they worshiped without ceasing, saying, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God, the Almighty, who was, who is, and who is to come. So these angels are also talked about in Isaiah 6, 1 through 3. And these angels had the 6 wings, and they were before the throne, and they were singing the same song. And here they are called seraphim, not cherubim. And the one difference that I saw between the seraphim and the cherubim that Ezekiel was talking about is he said they had 4 wings here, but they had the faces that were talked about here in Revelations 4. But then these seraphim had the 6 wings and were singing the song in front of the throne. So seraphim, cherubim, a little bit of both. Maybe there were both seraphim and cherubim in the room. But that is the explanation that we have, of the possibility that we know, possibility of somewhere between the realm of the seraphim and a cherubim. Also, one of these seraphim, and this is a little bit off the topic, but one of these seraphim that Isaiah saw was the one that touched his lips with a burning coal, because Isaiah was what he was witnessing in front of him, what he was being shown by the Lord. He says I'm undone. I'm he felt his uncleanness because of what he was viewing. And the seraphim touched his lips with this coal. And it was at that moment when he heard the Lord say, who shall I send? Who will go for us? And Isaiah said, send me, Lord, I will go. Well, do you know, so at that point in time, he was commissioned. But do you know that we have already been commissioned? It says in, well, first of all, Matthew 28, it says that he said, Jesus says, I have been given the keys now. And essentially, I'm giving them to you. And I tell you to go and to make disciples of all the nations. And to baptize them and to teach them all that I have instructed you. So he gives them, he commissions us there, right, in Matthew 28 to go. Also in John 15, 16, he says, you have not chosen me, I chose you. And I have ordained you to go, that you should go and bear fruit. So in at least 2 places in the Bible, he has already ordained us, commissioned us, sent us, told us, go. I am telling you to go. So we're saying, some of the times we might be saying, send me, Lord. Well, he's already sent us. We're sitting on our hands waiting. Well, he hasn't called me. Well, I don't have any clarity onto what my path is. He has sent you. If we're reading our Bibles, it's telling us, he's told us, I've sent you, I've ordained you, now go. And he does not show us the path until we put our foot on the path. We have to get out there and start doing it imperfectly before he starts showing us the path. The more we step out in faith, because it takes faith, God requires a faith walk out of this. It's very uncomfortable, but that's part of our righteousness. Righteousness is active. We're out there doing what he has told us to do. We're going. And as we go, the way becomes clear. So it's in going that our way becomes clear. So you've already been sent. Now we just have to go and do what he's told us to do. So that was just an aside. Now let's move on to verse 9. And whenever these creatures are giving glory, honor, and thanksgiving to the one who sits on the throne and lives forever and ever, the 24 elders, verse 10, they fall down before the one seated on the throne, God the Father, and they worship the one who lives forever and ever. And they surrender their crowns before the throne, singing, "You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things for your pleasure, and because of you, all things exist." Okay, so now let's look at that a little bit. So what is worship exactly? Okay, it says the angels were singing to them, singing to God, the one who sits on the throne, holy, holy, holy. And then it specifies that the elders, whenever these creatures were giving glory, honor, and thanksgiving, okay, that's what they're saying, part of worship is, they would also fall down on their face and they would also sing before him. Okay, so let's go to Psalms 102 and 4. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful to him and bless his name. So this is how we come into his presence. This is how we get him to come into our presence. It's a constant dialogue with him of thankfulness, of praise, of blessing his name, it says here. When you sing it and you're singing to him, it doesn't just bring him into his presence, it heals you. And I know this from my own experiences when I have been, struggling with something and I feel down or I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling sad. If I open my mouth and sing, it washes that away. And I'm not just talking about, Guns N' Roses or something. I'm talking about worship music. You're singing to him. You're raising your song to him. And it literally takes that away from you, the distress and the depression or the sadness that you're feeling. It lifts that off of you because he comes into your presence. And that can't stay when he's into your presence. So that's how you get to be in his presence, is you're just always Thanksgiving in Thanksgiving. And that's how you walk throughout your day. You start feeling bad about something, you praise his name, you thank him for everything you have and everything that he's done for you. Just something to remember, and it helps. When you do that, it brings him into your presence. That's going to make your whole day better. So I will see you guys next week, and we'll discuss Revelation chapter 5. You guys have a great weekend.